that was like a low point. That was really that was really bad.
We needed 3 weeks.
I deleted Reddit. I couldn't read it.
UCAT really felt like quite demoralizing.
Welcome to this very first episode of the Future Doc podcast, where we're going to be talking to different people from all different walks of medicine about their experience. In this very first episode, we're going to be talking to some first year medics from a very prolific university about not only their experience, but applying UCAT, how to survive your first day at medical school, and how to survive your first year in exams. So I hope you find it useful. If you want more of these, pop it in the comments, but enjoy this very first episode of the Future Doc podcast.
Welcome guys, Andy, Richard.
It's nice to have a chat to you and understand a little bit about people who are in medical school for the first year. They've gone through the application, they're kind of fresh to the process and understand what it's like having gone from not being in it to now understanding it. Tell us first a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now.
Currently, I'm a first year medical student at King's. I did the very classical route, GCSEs and A-levels, now med school. I didn't take a gap year, so I did my A-levels in 2025. Applied all the UCAS stuff, the UCAT, what an experience that was. And I guess, well, now I'm here.
Brilliant. And
Yeah, so I'm also a first year medical student, going into second year now. I applied graduate entry to everywhere except King's, because King's doesn't accept international applicants for graduate entry. And so I have a degree in molecular and cellular biology from UC Berkeley. And yeah, I'm here now too.
Yeah, fantastic. Tell me about your first day at medical school.
Yeah.
What do you remember?
My first day, now this was quite different because it's the first time I'm ever living out of home. I'm living in London. I don't live here. Never been here for over a day. I'm at my accommodation. We need to get to campus for 9 o'clock. It's like a horde of people all walking towards campus. Everyone not knowing where to go. Everybody not knowing what to do. Everybody not speaking to anybody because nobody knows anyone. And we've heard this from people saying, it's okay, you won't know anyone, you'll make friends. But it really felt like almost you were alone because I had nobody from my previous school coming with me. So it's like, I don't know anybody. I'm in a brand new place, living in a brand new place. After medical school, I can't go home. I need to go back to my comm. So that was quite a shock. But genuinely, it is what they say. You will make friends and it will come around quickly and naturally. Within a week, I can't imagine the first day, like having that feeling again. You meet great people. You like some lectures, you don't like some lectures. It all happens for a reason. And genuinely now, the first year medical school is done. I can't believe where the time has gone. From that first day. I still remember walking in fresh into New Hunt's lecture theatre for the first time, and now an entire year has gone by.
Yeah.
You really need to savour it.
Okay, great. And
So you feel like it went by quite quickly?
Definitely.
yeah.
Overall, retrospectively, looking back, it went by very quickly. But when you're in the moment, it couldn't go any slower.
Okay.
The grinding and the Anki consistently every single day, turning up into lectures, going to practicals, going to workshops, tutorials. You're just begging for the weekend almost every week. But now looking back, I would love to do another first year week again, when you're expected not to know anything, when you're learning the basic stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
It seems like a great time.
Did the step up feel like a bit of a shock to the system?
I was told that in coming into medical school from my teachers and people in years above me saying, the step up from year 13 to medical school is ginormous. But genuinely, I didn't really feel that.
Okay.
They started really basic. We had lectures on atoms and stuff in the first week. So they started from very much zero. Because not everybody has done at King's, it's only compulsory to do chemistry. So not everybody has done biology. So they assume everybody has that baseline level of next to nothing everyone have that baseline level of next to nothing in A-level biology. So they started from very much zero. And they built it up slowly and slowly. So the step up really wasn't too bad. It was very, very manageable.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Richard, what about you? What do you remember? What strikes you as the most memorable thing of starting medical school?
I remember feeling the same way. So I commute, and it felt like all of the people from residence halls had started forming their little bubbles and there's little groups. But very quickly I was proven wrong. It was quite easy to start socializing and making friends. It was very natural too. You don't really need to put yourself out there too much. It just kind of happens. But yeah, no, I remember the first day, the lecture hall was super, super stuffy, super hot. The most people I've seen in a lecture hall the entire year. It went down quite quickly after that, shot up again a little bit after midterms, formatives, and then started going down again. So I remember it was quite nice that everyone was there. At the same time, very hot.
A roller coaster.
Yeah.
What was the moment where either of you first felt like, okay, yeah, I feel like a medical student now?
So that one for me was actually quite recently. So at King's, we have first year is almost entirely preclinical, and then second year is when you really start getting, to go into hospitals and things like that a little bit more. And so we had our transition to clinical practice block pretty recently at the beginning of the summer. So 2 weeks of actually getting to go into the GP, getting to go into hospital, and just first time you really interact with patients that aren't like paid actors. And so for me, wearing my scrubs, using my stethoscope, that was the first time I really felt like I'm in medical school. I'm here to be a doctor.
Okay, cool. That's the part where you're doing the thing, right?
Exactly.
So, what was there any particularly awkward feeling that you had, or about what's the most awkward thing about starting placement?
Do you want to take this one?
It's just the most awkward thing is that you have no idea what to do. You walk into a ward, you walk anywhere in the hospital, you don't know what to do. We were doing some research at St. Thomas's. We had a meeting 3 weeks ago now. We accidentally went onto a ward, and I think I said quite loudly, I don't think we're meant to be here. And suddenly a doctor ran out and said, yeah, you're not meant to be here, and led us to the right place. It is genuinely being you don't know what to do, you don't know where to be. But I think one amazing thing about all doctors is they've been in your position. They know what it feels like to be in medical school and have that cluelessness of where to be and what to do. So they're always more than happy to help.
Yeah.
But I think it's that anxiety of getting in the way of someone doing something, because your jobs are really important. And we're just standing there knowing what a nucleus is. And it's what are we meant to do? But yeah, that fear of getting in the way of something important, getting on someone's nerves when they're doing their job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's what one of my consultants first said, is you become an expert of getting out of the way, basically.
Yeah.
That's the first rule number one of placement, isn't it? To know where to stand.
Yes.
Okay, great. And any particularly funny, other than the ones that you said, any particularly funny awkward moments on placement, or any particularly memorable experiences from your first time on placement?
So we've only had about 2 weeks so far, so not too many just yet. But one particularly memorable experience was, the first day that I got to use my stethoscope. We were basically going on a hospital tour, split up into groups, and the other group was watching a video. So our tour got over early. We got to use our stethoscope and listen to a patient's heart. And so the foundation doctor that was giving us the tour was like, okay, so it looks like they're still watching a video. How about I go show you a patient with a heart murmur? And so on my first day of using a stethoscope, I got to listen to a heart murmur of a patient with aortic stenosis. And so that was very, very exciting for me.
Cool.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? When you start, it's a miracle. When you find out so much about how the body can go wrong, you kind of think it's a miracle that everything goes wrong, that anything ever goes right. So did you have any moments at medical school where you thought, I'm not sure I can do this, or wanted to give up, or been worried whether you had what it took to get through first year?
Yeah, I think so. Before, we had exams at the very start of May, so April was very much just revision. There was this one point in May, there was this one point in April where I had dissection in the morning, a workshop tutorial, all on the same day, along with 3 lectures. It was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was in the library until around midnight. Fortunately, I live quite close, so it wasn't an issue. I was in the library for around 7-8 hours at a time. I don't think I stood up. I stand up and I'm like, there's still a month left till exams. How am I gonna continue this on? And I barely made a scratch in the surface of what I wanted to cover. Yeah, I'd been there for so long. I stood up, I could feel the blood rushing down to my legs. It wasn't very good. And I was like, how am I meant to do this? 1, for the next month, and then 2, for the next 4 or 5 years. It's like, this is going to be tough.
Yeah, it's a bit of a baptism of fire.
Yeah.
And I think medicine is one of those things, it's one of those rite of passage careers. people who go through anything, whether it be, I don't know, army, military training or something like that, you understand, only really the people who've done it understand what that involves. And psychologically in medicine, I think that's the hardest thing. It's that thing of, you can put a ton of hours in and still feel like you haven't really covered what you want. And also there's that thing of, you're not really guaranteed that you're going to pass necessarily. And for people who've had to resit exams, it's that horrendous exam cave that you have to be in, with no guarantee that you'll get through it. It's true. Also knowing that you may have to go through it all over again for a second time if you have to resit.
That's true.
Do you have many people in your year that had to resit exams?
I'm not too sure actually. Most people I've talked to, I feel like were confident that they would pass, and after results came out, they were pretty confident that they would pass. But I'm sure there were, just not too many.
Yeah, I think, I mean, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with when they get to medical school is that they've always done really well in school, right? They've always done well in A-levels and GCSEs or international exams or whatever it is. And medical school is sometimes the first time where they experience failure. And it might be at medical school, it might be a bit later in their career. But, you know, the number of doctors of my contemporaries that have never had a failed exam or a job that they didn't want to get is... So at some point you do find that point of where you have to, you know, you will have to resit something or reapply to something. And it does help you understand that it's kind of part and parcel of the process. And it's a good set of skills and a set, especially resilience, to learn that sort of stuff. So that's why I think medicine's an amazing career, just to equip you with certain universal skills, no matter what you end up doing, that are great for life, let alone just your career.
That's definitely something. Resilience is something I mentioned in my medicine interview when they asked, what do you think are the 3 core skills of a doctor? Resilience, because I know all about the job allocation things, the failing exams, the hours and hours, and just having to stay there, push through it for the greater good in the end, is something I think is really important for being a doctor and for being anyone, I think.
So when you had that kind of realization of like, oh, there's a lot here to do. What did you how did you manage to push through it? What helped you push through it?
I think especially during the month before exams, when it was just wake up, revise, and I mean that was it. It's always having something to look forward to, either that being at the end of the week or at the end of the day. Not after exams, because fine, I'm happy that exams are over. That's the only thing I'm going to look forward to. That's not going to get me through today. So always having something to look forward to at the end of a day or at the end of a week. So for example, I'd always make it a point to go out at the end of a day. Even if I get back at 12, my flatmates are more than happy to go on a walk or just have a chat with someone not doing medicine, not about medicine, in the kitchen at midnight or 1 o'clock. That's what I look forward to, coming home and speaking to people. At the end of the week, I always made it a point never to do any work on a Friday night. So always one day a week in the evening past 5 o'clock, I'd never open a book or touch anything. I put that as a rule. I didn't really stick to it. I thought, yes, I can have Friday off, relax Friday evening, set me up for the weekend for some good revision. I did that a few times and it felt amazing, but then getting closer and closer to exams, you sort of do need to study whenever. But always having something to look forward to. And that look forward to can be incredibly small. Going out for a coffee with one of your friends, that would generally get me through the day, just to do something. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think keeping your sanity is such an important part, and it's very easy for the stuff that helps that to fall by the wayside, right? Eating during exams, eating right, exercising, prioritizing sleep. They're such staples that people don't realise it's kind of a slippery slope. You slowly kind of just wake up an hour earlier or go to bed an hour later, and then before you know it, you're kind of doing it regularly, and you're not really in the best headspace to be studying. So self-preservation is a really important part.
And I think that gets made worse, especially if you're living alone or living out. Normally at home, my mum, everyone in my family would be in bed by 11. But I don't have that here. I've got flatmates who are out to all hours. So there's no set routine. I need to do everything myself, along with eating, cooking. Never very good at that. So my diet, I wouldn't really eat until 4 o'clock in the evening. And it's like, oh damn, I'm hungry and I've sat down for 7 hours, I need to do stuff. It's about keeping track of your work, but also keeping track of yourself with sleep and eating. There's definitely something I learned the hard way. I think medical school and going to university is just making mistakes and then learning from them. You're not going to be perfect from day one. I think I used my cooking pan 3 times this year since September, but learning how to put up with that and feed myself and go to sleep. Sounds really basic and really childish, but it's genuinely something I needed to learn.
Yeah, you're going to care for yourself and you're going to care for others.
Yeah.
So, Richard, tell me, so you've come from the States. What prompted you to come to the UK to study medicine rather than stay in the States?
So I actually grew up here, so here's home for me, and I applied to King specifically because I'd read about the amazing emergency medicine kind of stuff that we have going on here, and at the time of applying to medicine, I kind of wanted to go into emergency. That's changed since, but that's one of the reasons I applied to King specifically, and might as well apply to multiple while you're at it.
Tell us a little bit about your experience of going through the application process. So, Samantha, let's start with you.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience applying.
It was difficult because I did my GCSEs, I did fairly well in them. Getting to year 12, I went to a grammar school, so everyone's aiming for the highest things they can do. I've always loved science, medicine. That's a really cliched answer, but that's generally what I did love. But I wasn't sure I also did A-level computer science. So there was a mix. I was split up between medicine and going into something tech-related. Get to December of year 12, I need to make up my mind because UCAT stuff is promptly arriving. I choose medicine, I do that. Then become predicted grades in year 12. I know I need to bang out biology and chemistry. All good. Then this is where I started to maybe go back on my decision when I had to start with the UCAT. I'm very good at the GCSEs and A-level sort of stuff. I got 4 A stars and all 9s. I'm good at the learning stuff, but the UCAT's very much not learning stuff. It's being quick on your feet, time management, pressure. I was never very good at that. Similar to the 11 plus. Not really my forte. I'm good at the other stuff. So I really had to. I remember doing my first paper, and this is when it was out of 3,600. I got around 2,000. So I was like, that's not very good. That's shocking. That's really bad. And especially as someone, and that was probably my first encounter of failure that I've ever had. I've never failed a test before that. Or I didn't fail, but not do the best that I thought I could. That's really bad. And I want to go to medical school. It doesn't really add up. So then I grinded for around 3 months until my exam in August. All my friends had theirs before, and I was with very, very clever friends. 3,460 was one of my school friends. He got, and he did his a week before mine. He messages me and said, Manny, I got this. My last paper I got 2,700. This is not good. I got messaged 3 or 4 times, 3,200, 3,300. Oh dear, I've never gotten above 3,000. I go into the centre, really nervous. Do it, 2,960, band 1. I was happy looking back from where I came from 2,000. It was pretty good. But I thought I could have done better. It was my highest score I've ever gotten, to be fair. But with my grades, thinking, I'm predicted 4 A stars, I could be going to the good places and I got this. It was sort of mixed. Anyway, push on. Then it got really, really difficult starting year 13 in September. Rejected from Oxford and Imperial, pre-interview, within 2 weeks of each other, all whilst revising for my January mocks. That was a low point. That was really bad. There was a group of 5 of us at school, all applied to Oxford, all got the interview. One of them had a lower UCAT than me. That was hard because I got my grades you couldn't fault, and then I didn't even get an interview, so that was a bit shocking. But what can you do? Revising for A-levels was very, very difficult. When I had King's, which is a great uni, but I knew perhaps I could have gone somewhere else. And not having that end goal, as I said before, always having something to look forward to. It wasn't really, it's great, but it's not where I wanted to go. Not having something to really look forward to. That was tough. I had to force myself to work. A-levels, open the results, I get the 4 A stars. It was actually a bit, looking back on it, I feel it's quite, I don't like the way I was. I was like, "Oh, I could have applied to Cambridge with that." Like, but it doesn't matter. It took me a week. But then after that, I couldn't be happier where I am now. That's what my biology teacher said to me. Wherever you end up, you will love, because you spend so much time there. There's no point looking back on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are a few important points there, really. I think firstly, the UCAT, you're a good example of somebody who started, I always say, get that mock in early because you understand where you're at. Because you know where the goalposts are, but you've got to start where you are to understand where you need to go, right? And I think you see a lot of this stuff on Reddit of like, just all you need is 4 weeks, all you need is 3 weeks.
I deleted Reddit. I couldn't read it, genuinely.
There's a real survivorship bias of course the person who smashed it after 3 weeks of prep will, and that's probably one of you, you're one of them, right? But and that works for some people, that's totally fine. And but after teaching so many students now, I realize that everybody's different. Some people need to do the 3 months, slow and steady and just build and build. And that the people who, I would be like that, it wouldn't come as naturally to me and I would need to really hone those skills over time. And I've seen those people who find it a bit harder still get, the ridiculous scores, but it's just understanding that everybody has a different approach. And the other thing that kind of comes back to this resilience thing and being okay with things not going as well, but comparing yourself to other people. And you'll probably see that at medical school, right? When you start trying to compare yourself to other people, it's a real recipe for misery, really, isn't it? Where you go, like your teacher said, wherever you go, you'll have a great time. And it's the same when you apply to foundation training and you end up doing your F1 job. It was the same then. And, people who went to a bit more random places had an amazing time, and it is very much down to you do have to just roll with it a little bit and not worry too much about what everybody else is doing, because that's a surefire way to drive yourself a bit nuts.
It's again something I learned the very hard way. Now, for the entirety of this year, I don't care what other people are doing, as long as I'm having a good time, they're having a good time.
Yeah, and I think exam period, we talked about exam periods at medical school. Listening to what other people are doing and how much work they're doing and when they started revising, that is another recipe to just stress yourself out. Race your own race, play your own game.
There's a lot of that. I guess it's just blocking it out. We had people starting revising ridiculously early, and I haven't even finished 2 months ago's content, and I'm like, you need to block it out.
Yeah, exactly. Do your own thing. Yeah. Rishad, what about you? Tell us about your application journey.
I think mine was quite different to yours, Manny, in that...
Rocked it for 2 weeks, did it all?
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, rather in the sense that I didn't really have too many people around me that were going through the same path. And I didn't have the resources that I think a lot of UK schools really equip you with going into it. So I knew a couple of people at my university that were applying in Europe, not necessarily to the same schools, but just in general. And so I was like, when I decided that this is what I wanted to do, the next step, so this was at the beginning of the summer leading up to UCAT's applications. Next step was UCAT, naturally. And so that was a bit of a busy summer for me because I was also taking some summer courses at my university. And so just everything together, at the beginning, the UCAT really felt quite demoralizing because I was putting in so much work and my scores just aren't going up. I don't know what's going on, and I didn't really have anyone to ask for guidance. And so I start watching YouTube videos. I start, actually reading the Metafile little blogs and just trying to gather as many tips and as many resources as possible. And that actually ended up helping. So I think going back to that resilience thing is just knowing that sometimes it's okay to not just stick with something and it's okay to pivot and try something else, because one approach is surely bound to work. And so that's the approach that worked for me. I had a week scheduled, or 2 weeks, so about I think a month of prep, or 1.5 months of prep while I was taking my summer courses, and then 2 weeks of just straight UCAT, almost day till night. And yeah.
Did you not feel that was, like, some people get burnt out by doing too much in a short period of time. Did you feel that was right for you, or maybe a bit too much? Or?
I think at times it felt too much, especially if I put in a full day of work and I saw that score and I was like, okay, that's not quite where I want it to be. But overall, it, with that end goal in mind, these 2 weeks could potentially like make or break what you're gonna do. It really it frightens you enough to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's how I felt about it.
Yeah, got some good leverage on yourself.
Exactly.
What do you feel is good about King's, or what do you like about King's specifically?
Yeah. It's a good question. 'Cause I've got quite a few friends. We had our little gang at school all applying to medicine. So I met up with 2 people who went to Oxford last Friday. And I mean, they're loving it. It's a very, very different lifestyle. But this is the only like redeeming factor. My last exam was on the 7th of May. They finished 2 weeks ago. So I mean, there we go.
Yeah, for context, it's now July.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, and also the essays in Oxford, I've had many late nights of them just screaming down the phone at me, I need to write another essay. I'm just clicking my multiple choice questions.
Yeah.
But with those trade-offs, there comes many advantages of being there. The people you're surrounded by, I don't think you can get anywhere else. The atmosphere, not the prestige, but like being in such a historic city and surrounded by all those academics, the opportunities some of those people have gotten are really, really cool. But then on the other end of the spectrum, I have a friend at Imperial. We go out for lunch almost every 2 weeks. In London, we meet halfway. And that's very similar to King's. King's, you don't see a patient till the very, very end of first year. They had GP placement throughout, and some hospital placement, I think. But it's pretty much very similar. Because at the end of the 6 years or 5 years, you all know the same stuff. They just do it in a different order. So he's done head and neck, anatomy. We do that second year.
I quite like the way they structure their curriculum. So they tell us, first day almost. So this first year, we're going to teach you everything like about how the body is supposed to work. And then the next 4 years, you're going to start learning about how it shouldn't. And that quite like it makes a lot of sense to me. Like structure-wise, you really get a good feel of the basics for that entire first year. You're not doing things that necessarily you would feel too confused about. And then starting second year, it's a bit of a jump into the deep end with going into hospitals. But I feel like you have the entirety of that time to just get used to it. You don't have to worry about more preclinical type learning, which I quite like. I also really, really love how historic the city is, and also just King's specifically. Like the story of Guy's and St. Thomas's is just really, really cool to me. And there's loads of people on campus that you can actually talk to, like the chaplaincy, for instance. They're always very eager to give the tunnel tours and things like that. So I love how historically significant the school really is too.
Do you want to tell the story in a nutshell?
Oh yeah, for sure. So initially it was just St. Thomas's Hospital, and it was really expensive. People would stay overnight and basically go bankrupt, like way back when, in 1100s, I think. And then Guy's Hospital. So Thomas Guy came up and was like, I'm going to build my own hospital. Guy's Hospital, which was basically right behind St. Thomas's Hospital, a lot more affordable, a lot cheaper. Don't remember the exact year. But yeah, and so these two hospitals slowly start growing, and Guy's Hospital is a lot more for the common people. And St. Thomas is like, okay, well now we don't have space to grow because Guy's Hospital took all of our space. And so they moved to where they are now, which is by Parliament. And Guy's Hospital got all of their resources and got to expand quite a bit, and both of them are now very, very prestigious.
Yeah, and St. Thomas's Hospital is lovely if you guys get to go there. It's right opposite.
Yeah, we're both placed there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, it's just a lovely place to work, isn't it? Anyone who's thinking of applying to medical school or becoming a doctor or starting as a medical student, what would be your one piece of advice for them to heed?
It's difficult, but not as difficult as you can make it out in your head.
Mhm.
Because if you think about it, look at all the doctors in the country, they've all done it. So it's possible. Like, it's not impossible. That's what, like, people make it up. Oh, you're never going to have a social life. You're going to be studying, like, 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock. It's like, that building up in my head was terrible. Like, all my other friends on different courses can go out in the evening with their friends, can go out for dinner. Like, that's not true. You can do everything they can. You can do more than they can. You just need to be in charge of your own timetable. If you want to study for 12 hours a day, you definitely can, but you need to have that resilience to not. And it's definitely possible. Look at all the doctors. This country would fall apart without the doctors. So it's definitely possible. That's what I had to imagine in my head as I came in. It's difficult, but it's definitely possible.
Absolutely. It's like a lot of those things. It's a lot worse in your mind than it is in reality, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Michelle, what about you?
Yeah, I would say, like, talk to the people around you about your journey, because like, it is quite a difficult journey to go through alone. So make sure you have your support networks, like your family, your friends. Really just talk to them about it, because I mean, especially talking with someone outside of medicine, they're able to, well, they don't necessarily share the same worries that you do. And in a way that's kind of reassuring, because they're like, they're very confident that you will do well, and they, like, sometimes it just takes that little bit of confidence to get you back on the right track. If you're studying for an exam, you're like, okay, this is not going how I want it to. Just talking with, like, friends and family really helps with that. So I'd say make sure you have your support networks.
It can keep you quite grounded, can't it? Because you do get very, like, especially around exam time, uni focused on, like, oh my god, I can't remember exactly how the kidney works and blah blah blah. And people outside of medicine, like, it's okay, you're still breathing, you're healthy.
Exactly.
Like, you will get through this, you'll be fine. Yeah. And I think again to your point, Manny, is that with medical school, you meet some people who you will be bonded with for life. Like, you guys obviously very early in your journey, but I'm 20. It's 20 years since, nearly 20 years since I started medical school, and I still see all of those guys. I'm still really good friends with them, still really close. I think also, you were saying about you feel like you don't have time. Actually, I feel like medics, it's kind of the opposite, where because you have quite a lot of time restricted, because you are busy at the end of the day, people make the most of their off time a lot more, and actually paradoxically end up doing a lot more because of that, because they're very, very organised type A people, the majority, aren't they? So they get stuff done, and that also happens socially. So fantastic to hear some insight of people who have just started it for the very first time, and thank you both for coming today. And it's great to interview people and understand exactly what it's like for those people who are on that journey of starting and not sure what it's going to look like for the first year or so. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.